Hey, welcome. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at some basic concepts of motion media design in After Effects. The two first concepts deal with space and time. What's the space you're working in? What's the dimensions of it? What's the aspect ratio of it? We'll be taking a look at all of that, as well as the time. What's the length of your animation? What's your frame rate? Things like that are very important to understand before you jump into creating an animation. The first thing that we need to understand about the space that we're working in is how is it measured and what measures the quality of it. All of that is done by the pixel. A pixel is the smallest point of a raster image. You can see here that we've zoomed in on this raster image, and the idea here is all of these little blocks are pixels, and that is what makes up this image. So when we zoom back out, we don't see the small pixels, we see the full image. But we can measure the image by these little pixels. When measuring the image size and quality, we're talking about its resolution. Resolution is the number of pixels in an image, video, or screen. It indicates the visual quality of the image. It also indicates the frame size of the image. You can see that we're measuring this on the X plane, the horizontal plane, which is going left and right, and then the Y or the vertical plane, which is going up and down. Now, the image that you see in front of you is a 1920 by 1080 image. This video was shot 1920 by 1080. That's its resolution. You can start in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and that's 0. And then if you count over to the far right, there should be 1,920 pixels. And then again, starting up in the upper left-hand corner and going down, there should be 1,080 pixels. That is the resolution of this video and the image that you're looking at. So 1920 by 1080 is one of the most familiar resolutions that we work with. So as technology has advanced, we've been able to increase the resolution of our cameras, of our screens, of our images, and that gives the eye more information to look at. We're not making larger images, it just means that we're packing more pixels into each screen. That makes the image look crisper, clearer, with greater image depth and color depth. You can see at the bottom of this, the listing of many of these resolutions. FHD, which we're talking about, 1920 by 1080. QHD, which is for gaming, 1440p as it's often known, which is 2560 by 1440. Then you can see the 4K UHD, which is basically double this 1920 by 1080 at 3840 by 2160. And then the 4K DCI, 4096 by 2160. And you'll see those numbers there at the end of each of these. That's their aspect ratio. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. And then even on up to 8K, 7680 by 4320. So the next concept that we need to understand about the space that we're working in is aspect ratio. The aspect ratio is the proportional relationship between the width and height of an image, video, or screen. It's basically the overall shape of the image, video, or screen. Let's take a look at the 16 by 9, the HDTV aspect ratio down there. That is what most modern TVs are today. So if you were to break this up into sections, there's 16 sections of width compared to the 9 sections of height. This has nothing to do with resolution and the number of pixels that are in that screen. Let's compare that to the 4:3 standard def television. That's what I grew up watching. You can see that those two shapes are drastically different. You can almost fit two of the 4:3 in the 16 by 9. Again, this has nothing to do with resolution because we can put in that 16 by 9 a lower resolution of 1280 by 720, which is closer to the resolution of those standard def 4:3s, which was 640 by 480. Very low resolution. Let's go back to the 16 by 9. As I mentioned earlier, most TV screens, computer monitors, and even phone screens are 16 by 9, but they can all have different resolutions. The resolutions that we're most familiar with are the high def 1920 by 1080, as well as 4K. As far as cameras and what they can record, many of them are able to do 1920 by 1080. Even many are jumping into 4K, and some higher end cameras are able to do 6K, 8K, and on up. So one of the first things you're going to need to ask when you're starting to create an animation is, what is my aspect ratio? And that oftentimes is going to be determined by where is this going to end up showing. If it's going to be on a normal TV screen or computer monitor, then you're probably going to go with 16:9. When you get into social media content, there'll be different aspect ratios depending on the platform you're going to be viewing it on. Some will want a 9:16, some will want a 1:1, and then there are other aspect ratios. Most stuff for television is going to be 16:9. And then when you get into the film, you'll get into the 1.85:1 and the 2.35:1. The next concept we're going to take a look at is time. Of course, a motion media design is going to be a certain length of time, and that'll be determined a couple of different ways. Sometimes you're going to be told that, yes, we only need 10 seconds long, or it has to be exactly 10 seconds. That determines the length of the animation. Sometimes it may be just based on the information and the feel of it and how long the music is or the audio that you're working with. And so it might be more free form on that, and that full length will be determined by the end of it. The next concept that we need to take a look at as far as time goes is frame rate, or frames per second, FPS. Frame rate, or frames per second, is the number of pictures or frames recorded for every second of film or video. So every piece of film, every video that we watch is going to have a frame rate, and for every animation that you create, you'll need to be working in a certain frame rate. Oftentimes that is determined earlier in the process so that you know how you want to display that later. So again, for frame rate, or frames per second, that means for every second of film or video we watch, that there are 16 pictures that we are viewing back sequentially. Back in the early days of film, it was determined that 16 frames per second would be enough information to trick the eye in the brain into believing that it was real motion. Today's modern film has jumped up to 24 frames per second, and that came about whenever sound was added. Today's modern television and a lot of what we see on social media is around 30 frames per second, more technically, sometimes 29.97 frames per second. And at times there's the need for higher frame rates, like 60 frames per second. That will help create slow motion and visual effects. Depending on the abilities of the camera, some cameras can record even higher frame rates, even up into the tens of thousands. And so whenever you begin an animation, you will need to know what your frame rate is going to be. Are you going to be working with footage that's already recorded at a certain frame rate, or are you determining that frame rate? Most of the time, that frame rate is going to be 24 or 30, or a variation of those two. And oftentimes that can be a stylistic choice also. If you want something to look more filmic or like film, then you're going to go with the 24 frames per second. The next concept, the keyframe, is very much at the core of animating in After Effects. A keyframe marks a point in time on the timeline and records the values of a property of an object. There must be at least 2 keyframes to make an animation. So I have a timeline here of 5 seconds long, and it's 30 frames per second, so that means that there's 150 frames in this sequence. To mark the beginning of this animation that I want to create, I've set a keyframe right here at 1 second in. That means for the first second, nothing's going to happen. But this is where the animation will begin. And I've decided that I want that animation to last for 3 seconds and end at 4 seconds. So that's my second keyframe. So I've set my time, but I also need to tell After Effects what property to animate. And in this one, we're going to animate the position. So let's say we're moving this around the screen. It would start somewhere up here in this area based on those numbers, 480 by 270. And as we move through this timeline, it would then move from here down to here based on this number and based on the time we've set up. So you'll go in, set your object wherever you want it, set a keyframe where you want it in the timeline, And then you can move to the new time where you want it to end, and you can change that value, and After Effects will set the second keyframe for you. We can continue the animation by moving in the timeline more and then also changing the value. So we're not restricted to just 2 keyframes, but it depends on how much we want to animate that object. Next, I want to take a look at the 5 basic transform properties. For every asset or content that you bring into After Effects and then put into a timeline, those layers will have 5 basic transform properties: anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Most of those are probably easy to understand. Anchor point might be a little difficult, and in later videos, we'll definitely take a look at that. But basically, the anchor point is the point in which After Effects sees where that object exists in the viewer. It's denoted by a crosshairs, and you'll see that when we jump into After Effects. Position is where is that object in the viewer, its position. Scale is whether you can size that image up or down, and most all of the objects can be, and they'll go above 100% scale and below 0% scale. Rotation is exactly that, being able to rotate that object. And then opacity is the visibility of an object, how much you can see through that, if it's completely opaque or if it's completely transparent. Every object will start off with these 5 basic transform properties, but some objects will have many more properties than just these 5, and especially if we start adding effects, many more properties will be added. It's also helpful to understand the After Effects project workflow. After Effects will record, or you will save a file, and that's going to be the After Effects project, or the .aep. That would be like a Word document or saving an image as a JPEG. The project will contain the compositions and digital references to your media assets and the work you've created. So that .aep, you can double click on it. It will open up After Effects, and any work that you've created in that project will exist. Once you're in your project and you start creating, you're going to create compositions. And this is the meat of where you will do your work, in a composition. And oftentimes that composition is kind of made up of the timeline and the viewer. In the timeline, you will see layers for each asset that you put into the viewer. Those layers will represent, so if you put a picture in your viewer, there will be a layer down in the timeline representing that picture. It will have the 5 basic transform properties and also be where you will animate and add effects to that picture. A project won't be just one composition, but it can consist of many compositions. I've kind of already mentioned layers. They're located in the timeline and represent the visual content in the viewer. So again, for any object you see in the viewer, your canvas, you will have a layer down in the timeline. And then your media assets, often referred to as assets, content, images, videos, any type of name like that can be used. This is mostly referring to any picture, video, graphic, or audio that is created outside of After Effects and imported into a project. Some assets will be created in After Effects. There's 2 categories of images we'll be working with. The first is raster or bitmap. These images are created using pixels. We've kind of looked at that already. They are resolution dependent. I'll explain that a little bit more in just a moment. The number of pixels in the image affects its quality. Photography and video images are raster based. When scaled up, a drop in visual quality will occur. Now, some common file types, and you might be familiar with some of these already, are bitmap, TIFF, JPEG, PNG, GIF, and PSD. There's many more out there, but these are some of the more common type. Any type of video file that you come across will be raster based. Now, what that means again is we're going to go back to the pixel. All of these images are based on pixels. And what I'm trying to simulate here is if we zoom into this small section right here, we're going to see the individual pixels of that image. Now, when we're zoomed out like this, we don't see it, but if we zoom in, we're going to start to get down to these pixels, and that doesn't look really good. So this being resolution dependent means that if this image is 1920 by 1080, it's going to look its best at 1920 by 1080. And then if we begin to scale it up, we're going to start to lose quality. It's going to start looking blurry and fuzzy. And the more we scale up, the worse it's going to get. So if we want to scale into an image like this on a composition, on a project that is 1920 by 1080, if we want to zoom into it, then we need to have an image that has a much higher resolution, maybe even up to an 8K resolution. You can find images with a higher resolution. The other category of images is the vector. You won't see a camera create these. It's just not possible at this point. But vectors are created using points and equations that determine the lines of the image. These can be scaled up or down without loss of quality. They are created in illustration applications. After Effects does have vector-based tools for image creation. Some common file types will be the EPS, SVG, and then the Adobe Illustrator. So in comparison to raster images, whenever you scale up a vector image, it is going to maintain its quality. Fonts are oftentimes vector-based images, and so that's why you can scale them up also.